Hello students, good morning all of you. Once again, a warm welcome to the mobile computing online session. Today's lecture, we are successfully entering into unit number 4 in mobile computing, that is mobile transport layer. With the past video, we successfully completed unit number 3. So we covered 3 units up to now. So once again, we just recall what we covered in past 3 units just before starting this session. So in the unit number 1, we covered introduction part of mobile computing and mobile computing architecture and mobile communications and mobile communication introduction and architectures of GSM and GPRS and handover management and different applications of mobile computing and some of the drawbacks and limitations of mobile computing. So those topics we covered in the unit number 1. So introduction part of mobile communication, mobile computing and applications, limitations, uh, architectures of mobile computing, GSM architecture, GPRS architecture and different applications of GSM. So those topics we covered in the unit number 1. When coming to the unit number 2, that is a MAC, medium access control. There in the unit number 2, we covered the topics of hidden and exposed terminals, near and far terminals. That is what is the need for specialized MAC. So that is the topic we covered. What is the need for specialized MAC? Those are problems arised in the data communication. So what is hidden terminal problem? What is exposed terminal problem? What is near and far terminal problems? And how we have to avoid that hidden terminal problem, exposed terminal problem, and near and far terminal problems that we covered in the unit number 2. Along with that, we covered about FDMA, TDMA, CDMA, and SDMA topics. So frequency division, time division, space division, and code division, multiple accesses, and as well as in the second part of unit number 2, we completely discussed about IEEE 802.11 and its application and architectures. So those topics we covered in the unit number 2. So coming to the unit number 3, so that is mobile network layer. So mobile network layer, there in the mobile network layer, we mainly focused on the how an IP packet is delivered from source to the destination from one node to the another node. From that means correspondent node to the mobile node, how a mobile packet is. So an IP packet is delivered. So we mainly focused in the IP packet delivery and related topics in the unit number 3. Now coming to the unit number 4. So I hope you guys are all observing. So in what way the syllabus is going on. So the unit number 1, introduction part. In the unit number 2, specialized MAC, that means medium access controls. Coming to the unit number 3, network layer. Now unit number 4, transport layer. So all these are related to the networking architecture, that means from physical layer along with data link layer and from network layer, thereafter transport layer. In this way, here the syllabus is more going on. So in the starting of the session, now in the starting of first online session, I already mentioned that if you are good in networks, uh, you can learn mobile computing very much easily. So now we start the session, that is unit number 4, mobile transport layer. I think it is very much easy to justify the title transport layer. So what is the role of transport layer? So whatever the destination address identified by the network layer, so the data transportation will done by the transport layer. So now move on to the syllabus. So what we are studying in this unit number 4 is, so this unit number 4 is split down into 2 parts. In the first part, the mobile transport layer, which studied these topics: traditional TCP, indirect TCP, snooping TCP, mobile TCP, and fast retransmission and recovery, transmission and timeout freezing, selective retransmission, and transaction-oriented TCP. So these topics we have to cover in the first part of the unit number 4. So traditional TCP and all related to the TCP. And coming to the second part, here we have to study database related topics. That is database issues, coding techniques, catching invalidation mechanism, client server computing with adaptation, and power aware and context aware computing, transactional models, query processing, recovery and quality of service issues. So all these are the database related issues we have to cover in the second part of the unit number 4. So here the unit number 4 split down into two parts. One related to the TCP and second one related to the databases. So here in the first part we cover traditional TCP, indirect TCP, snooping TCP, mobile TCP, all TCP related issues here, and all database related issues we have to cover here. So now move on to the syllabus. The first one is traditional TCP. I hope you guys are all good about TCP, UDP, all these protocols, because in the past semester you completed networks, so there you mostly studied about TCP. But here we're starting from TCP onwards. The traditional TCP, the transmission control protocol. So TCP is the transmission control protocol. So it is the one of the core protocol of internet protocols. So it often simply referred to as TCP/IP. Generally, we call it as a TCP/IP. After studying of OSI reference model, you guys studied TCP/IP in the networks. So in generally, so the transmission control protocol is one of the core protocol of the protocols. So here the TCP is reliable and guarantees in-order delivery of data and incorporates congestion control and flow control mechanisms. So if we are using TCP for data transmission, it guarantees for the packet delivery. So because generally in the time of study in the protocol architecture in the networks, I think you guys covered TCP and UDP. So there, the basic point is there is a possibility of 100% guarantee in the data packet delivery by using TCP. But coming to the UDP, there is a data loss. There is a possibility of data loss. I think you covered the topic in the networks. So TCP is reliable and guarantees in-order delivery of data and incorporate congestion control and flow control mechanisms. So the TCP supports many of the internet's most popular application protocols and resulting applications, including the World Wide Web, email and file transfer protocol, and secure shell. So in the internet protocol suite, TCP is the intermediate layer between the internet layer and application layer. So it is acting as a mediator, simply call it as between internet layer and application layer. So just we observe the TCP/IP model. That is the 5-layer TCP/IP model. So what are those 5 layers? Generally, OSI is the 7-layer reference model. Here the TCP/IP is the 5-layer model. So we convert the 7-layer to the 5-layer in the TCP/IP. The first layer is as usual physical layer. Second layer is the data link layer. Instead of network layer, here we call it as internet layer, and transport layer, and finally the application layer. So all these are the protocols which are used there in that particular layers. So physical layer consisting of Ethernet of physical layer, ISDN, modems, PLC, and so on at G.709, WiMAX. So all these are the different physical layer medium accesses. And coming to the data link layer, 802.11, ATM, DTM, Ethernet, FTDI, frame relay, GPRS, EVDO, HSPA, HDLC, and PPP. All these are related to data link layer. And coming to the internet layer, so internet layer protocols are IPv4 and IPv6. That means internet protocol version 4 and version 6, and IGMP, ICMP, RSVP, PGP, RIP, OSPF, ISIF, IP section, and ARP and RARP. All these are the protocols related to the internet layer. Coming to the transport layer, which we are discussing here in this unit number 4, that is TCP, UDP, DCCP, and SCTP. So all these protocols are related to the transport layer. And finally, coming to the application layer, here the DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, and Domain Name Service, DNS, File Transfer Protocol, FTP and GOPR, and HTTP, IMAPR, IRC, NNTP, XMPP, MIME, POP3, and SIP, SMTP, and SNMP, SSH, and Telnet, RPC, RTP, and etc. All these are related to the application layer protocols. So this is the 5-layer TCP/IP model and different protocols of each layer. So the major responsibility of TCP is an active sessions. These are provide reliable in order transport of data, do not allow losses of data. So already we discussed. So if we are using TCP/IP, there is a possibility of 100% guarantee of data packet delivery. So it not allow losses of data. So data loss is not done here in the TCP/IP. That is the first responsibility, major responsibility of TCP/IP. And next one is control congestion in the network. So that means controlling traffics. So to not it not allow degradation of the network performance. So network has to be performed in the same manner until the end of packet delivery. And the third one is control a packet flow between the transmitter and the receiver. It do not exceed the receiver's capacity. So if the receiver's capacity is in certain limited, so it allows only that much of data delivery. So these are the major responsibilities of TCP: provide reliable in order to transport, control congestion, and control a packet flow. And the TCP uses a number of mechanisms to achieve high performance and avoid congestion collapse, where network performance can fall by several orders of magnitude. So these mechanisms control the rate of data entering the network and keeping the data flow a rate that would trigger collapse. So there is a several mechanisms of TCP that influences the efficiency of TCP in a mobile environment. So whichever the mechanism is needed to complete that particular transmission, uh, it is used by the TCP. So that's why here we are discussing. So there are several mechanisms used by the TCP for delivering the data packet. So acknowledgement for data sent or lack of acknowledgements are used by sender to implicitly interpret network conditions between the TCP and sender and receiver. So congestion control. So the first responsibility, one of the responsibility of TCP congestion control, a transport layer protocol such as either TCP and some other protocols are there for the transport layer. So the transport layer protocol such as TCP has been designed for fixed network with fixed end systems. So I think already we discussed about TCP and UDP in the past unit lectures. So TCP is designed for fixed networks with fixed end systems. And congestion may appear from time to time even in carefully designed networks. So if you are designed carefully, but there is a slighter, a small problem will be appeared there in the there may be a possibility of congestion. So here also in the transport layer, if you are using TCP, they may be appear from a time to time even carefully if you have to be designed. So the packet buffers of a router are filled and the router cannot forward the packets it fast enough because the sum of the input rates of packets destinated for one output link is higher than the capacity of the output link. If output link is some certain amount of range, if you are sending additional packets, uh, then the packets fast enough because the sum of the input rates of packets destinated for one output link is higher than the capacity of the output link. The only thing a router can do in this situation is to drop packets. More than range, if you are transmitting packets, automatically drop the packets. A dropped packet is lost for the transmission, and the receiver notice a gap in the packet stream. So now the receiver does not directly tell the sender which packet is missing, but continues to acknowledge all in sequence packets up to the missing one. So that is the main problem. So if flow is heavy, automatically packet drops will occur. If packet drop is occurred, automatically receiver doesn't know which packet is lost. For that purpose, he continuously acknowledges for again sequence of packets up to the missing one. So the sender notices the missing acknowledgement for the lost packet and assumes a packet loss due to congestion and retransmission the missing packet and continuing at full sending rates would now be unwise, as this might only increase the congestion. How a congestion is increased is if a receiver notices the packet loss, if he sends the re-acknowledgement, and after receiving the acknowledgement from the receiver, the sender notices the missing acknowledgement and again resends that packet and retransmitting the missing packet and continuing at full sending rate would now be unwise, as the might only increases the congestion. To mitigate congestion, TCP slows down the transmission rate dramatically, and all other TCP connections experiencing the same congestion do exactly the same, so the congestion is soon resolved. So how it is avoided? The first one is slow start. So TCP's reaction to a missing acknowledgement is quite drastic. So TCP identifies the missing acknowledgement, but the TCP's reaction to make a missing acknowledgement is quite drastic, but it is necessary to get rid of congestion quickly. The behavior TCP shows after the detection of congestion is called slow start. The sender always calculates a congestion window for a receiver. The start size of the congestion window is one segment, that is TCP packet. So the sender sends one packet and waits for acknowledgement. If this acknowledgement arrives, the sender increases the congestion window by one, now sending two packets. The sender always calculates the congestion window depending upon the receiver. If the sender sends one packet and waits for acknowledgement, if acknowledgement arrives, the sender slowly increases the congestion window by one, now sending two packets. So now the congestion window is 2. So in the starting of the packet delivery, congestion window is 1. This scheme doubles the congestion window every time the acknowledgements come back, which takes one round trip time, that is RTT. This is called the exponential growth of the congestion window in the slow start mechanism. But doubling the congestion window is too dangerous. The exponential growth stops at the congestion threshold. As soon as the congestion window reaches the congestion threshold, further increases of the transmission rate is only linear by adding 1 to the congestion window each time the acknowledgement come back. So this is the diagrammatical representation of congestion avoidance, how the slow start threshold. So this is the slow start threshold. So starting from 0 to 2, there are nodes 4, 8, 10, 12, 14 in this way. So this is the congestion window size time. So what we discussed here in this slide is, so if it receives the acknowledgement, it increases the congestion size to 1. So one by one the size is increased, 0 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 14. So doubling here. But doubling the congestion window is too dangerous. The exponential growth stops at the congestion threshold. So growth is stopped here and is traveled in this way. So this is the congestion control and slow start. And now fast retransmit and fast recovery. If packet is lost, it follows the slow start. So what happened there, we discussed in the last slide. Now, fast retransmit and fast recovery. If packet is lost, how it is quickly retransmitted, that we are discussing here. The congestion threshold can be reduced because of two reasons. First one is if the sender receives continuous acknowledgement for the same packet, or it informs the sender that the receiver has got all the packets up to the acknowledgement, the packet in the sequence, and also the receiver is receiving something continuously from the sender. If the gap in the packet stream is not due to congestion but a simple packet loss due to a transmission error, the sender can now retransmit the missing packets before the timer expires. This behavior is called fast retransmit. The sender can now retransmit the missing packets before the timer expires. That is fast retransmission. So it is an early enhancement for preventing slow start to trigger unloses not caused by congestion. The receipt of acknowledgement slows that there is no congestion to justify a slow start. If the sender can continues with the current congestion window, the sender performs a fast recovery from the packet loss. This mechanism can improve the efficiency of TCP dramatically, and the other reasons for activating slow start is a timeout due to a missing acknowledgement. So the TCP using fast retransmit and fast recovery interprets this congestion in the network and activates the slow start mechanism. The advantage of this method, that is fast retransmission, is its simplicity, and minor changes in the MHS software results in performance increases. So no changes are required in FA or CHA. The disadvantage of this scheme is insufficient isolation of packet losses. So it mainly focus on problems regarding handover, and also it affects the efficiency when a CH transmits already delivered packets. So these are the problems with the traditional TCP in wireless environment. So what happened if you are using TCP? There is a continuous flow of packets. If congestion is occurred automatically, if a packet loss is done. So if a packet loss is done, again the receiver resends the acknowledgement, and sender receives the acknowledgement continuously and sends the packets sequential order again and again. So there it will be done in two ways. One is slow start and second one is the fast recovery and retransmission. And the general problems with the traditional TCP in wireless environment is slow start mechanism in fixed networks decreases the efficiency of TCP if used with mobile receivers or senders. And the error rates on wireless links are orders of magnitude higher compared to fixed fiber or copper links. This makes compensation of packet loss by TCP quite difficult. So the mobility itself can cause packet loss. There are many situations where a soft handover from one access point to another is not possible for a mobile end systems. So to avoid this, these are the classical TCP improvements, indirect TCP, snooping TCP, mobile TCP. These are the different TCP improvements techniques, because there is a problem with the traditional TCP in wireless environment. In general, if you are using TCP for wired environment, there is no problem. 100% packets are delivered from source to the destination or from sender to the receiver. But if you have to be using traditional TCP in the wireless environment, it causes some problems. So to avoid these problems, there are some classical TCP improvement techniques are developed. Those are indirect TCP, ITCP, and snooping TCP, STCP, and mobile TCP, MTCP. So we will discuss about these improvement techniques in the coming lecture. Okay, just we recall what we covered in this session is, so traditional TCP. So what happened there in traditional TCP? Traditional TCP architecture is a 5-layer model. What is congestion control? So congestion window, slow, if packets lost, how we have to be retransmit the packets by using slow start or fast recovery and retransmission. Some of the problems with the traditional TCP in the wireless environment, and how we have to avoid these problems, and how the improvements are done in the classical TCP. that we have to discuss, that we will discuss in the next lecture. Okay, thank you very much.